No, absolutely not. This is the first-class cabin, not a handout station, not a place where people wander in, start pleading, and expect the world to bend. Valeria Stone, 45, white skin, sleek bun, senior purser with a razor smile and a voice trained to command, blocked the aisle like a velvet rope. Malik Pierce, 38, deep brown skin, calm-eyed, athletic build, undercover black CEO of Ether Aviation's parent company, raised by a mother who worked airport concessions, devoted to dignity and fairness, stopped mid-step. He wore a plain charcoal hoodie, scuffed sneakers, and carried a worn backpack on purpose. No badge, no entourage, no hint he owned the power in this aircraft. Behind him, a small voice shook. "Ma'am, please." Isaiah, 10, held a paper voucher stamped meal confirmed. His grandmother stood tight beside him, apologizing with her posture. Isaiah's fingers trembled. Malik noticed the shallow breathing, the pale look that said this wasn't drama. It was need. Valeria tilted her head, dripping fake sweetness. A voucher? How precious. She pinched the paper like it was contaminated. "You know where this belongs? At a commercial airline counter with plastic trays and sympathy speeches. Not here." Malik kept his voice even. "The voucher is confirmed. He's not asking for charity. He's asking for what was promised." Valeria's eyes crawled over Malik's hoodie, then his face. "And who are you supposed to be? His lawyer? His savior?" She let the pause sting. "Or do you just enjoy showing up where you don't belong?" "I'm a passenger," Malik said. "Why are you denying him?" Valeria's smile sharpened. "Because I'm not running a daycare at 40,000 feet. She flicked her fingers toward the forward galley door, where a tiny lock light glowed. "Because we have airline policy. Because we protect the experience of real guests." Isaiah swallowed. "I'm not trying to cause trouble. My stomach hurts when I don't eat. The lady at the desk said it was included." Valeria snapped once, silencing him. "Don't perform." She turned her head so the cabin could hear. "This is what people do when they want something they didn't earn. They make you feel guilty." Malik stepped slightly, shielding Isaiah. "He's a child." "And this is not a playground," Valeria shot back. "Passenger rights do not include marching into restricted areas and demanding premium resources. Passenger rights do not include disrupting a cabin designed for paying clients." Malik didn't raise his voice. "Passenger rights include receiving what was confirmed, especially if there's a health reason." Valeria scoffed. "Health reason? Of course." Her eyes flashed with judgment that didn't need a slur to bruise. "You see this cabin and suddenly you think you deserve it." Isaiah's grandmother whispered, "Baby, it's okay." But her eyes begged. Malik too. "Please don't make them punish us for speaking." Valeria straightened, performing for the room. "We keep this cabin clean, quiet, exclusive." Her gaze returned to Malik. "So, you sit down and stop auditioning for hero points, or I call security and remove the problem." "Security?" Malik asked. "For a meal voucher?" "For disorder," Valeria said. "For standing there, like you get a vote." Malik breathed slowly. He watched Valeria turn Isaiah into a prop, then label resistance as aggression. He recognized the message underneath. Some people are expected to shrink, to apologize, to accept less. Malik looked up. "What's your name?" Valeria blinked, insulted. "Excuse me?" "Your name," Malik repeated, "and the name of whoever authorized denying a confirmed meal." Valeria laughed, short and cutting. "You think you can interrogate me because you found courage in a hoodie?" "Show me the policy," Malik said. Valeria stepped closer and tapped Malik's chest with one manicured finger. Small, deliberate disrespect. "Here's the policy. This cabin stays clean, and right now, you're bringing noise." Isaiah inhaled sharply, panic rising. His hands shook harder. Shame made him fold inward. Malik softened his voice to Isaiah first. "You did nothing wrong. You hear me? Nothing." Then he faced Valeria again. One more time. Honor the voucher, or document the denial and your reason. Valeria's smile turned poisonous. Oh, I'll document it. I'll document that a man in a hoodie stirred trouble in a premium cabin. I'll document that you used a child to manipulate staff. I'll document that you threatened the comfort of people who matter. Malik held her gaze and said quietly, "You're very confident for someone standing on a lie." For the first time, her smile wavered. Malik added, calm as steel, "If you crush a child to protect your ego, the truth will crush your career to protect his dignity." The cabin went still. Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves. Ensure justice for those being crushed. Proverbs 31:8-9. Malik's phone vibrated once in his pocket. He slid it into his palm and whispered 2 words, almost gentle. Begin audit. If you have ever been judged by your clothes, your skin, or the way you ask for something you were promised, then what happens next with this private flight will make you furious. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and stay with Dignity Voices to follow how quiet power exposes loud cruelty. Valeria doesn't just deny Isaiah a meal, she escalates the humiliation and targets Malik, right before the aircraft itself starts exposing what really happened in that galley. Valeria didn't budge. She blocked the aisle with a smile that pretended to be service. Behind her, the forward galley door glowed with a tiny lock light, sealed, protected, off limits. Isaiah clutched the meal, confirmed voucher so hard the paper bent. His breathing sped up. "Back to your seat," Valeria said, speaking over him. "And stop waving that like it gives you authority." Malik kept his tone level. "He needs food. You heard him." "I heard a performance," Valeria replied, "and I'm not rewarding it." A suited man nearby muttered, "Just sit down, man. Why make it a thing?" Malik looked at him briefly. "Because she's making it a thing." Valeria turned toward the cabin, projecting her voice like an announcement without the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. We're experiencing a minor disruption. Some passengers are confused about service boundaries and are attempting to access restricted catering." Confused, attempting, restricted. She was writing a story where cruelty sounded like procedure. Isaiah whispered, "I'm sorry." "Don't apologize," Malik told him. "You didn't do anything wrong." Valeria's lips curled. There it is, the hero's speech. "Sir, this is a premium cabin. We don't run on feelings." "Then run on facts," Malik said. "Show the catering log." Valeria laughed. "Like your management." "I'm a passenger asking for documentation," Malik said. "If you're right, you'll have no problem showing it." Heads turned. A phone lifted, hungry for humiliation. Valeria pressed the call panel twice. "Trent, front cabin, now." Trent arrived from the galley with the confidence of someone used to bending rules. He glanced at Isaiah, then Malik, then the audience. "What's going on?" he asked loudly. Valeria answered louder. "We have an invalid voucher. He's trying to force service, and this gentleman is encouraging it. They're attempting to breach the sealed galley." Isaiah's voice cracked. "I didn't breach anything. I just asked." Trent raised a palm. "Kid, you can't walk into the galley. Safety issue." "I didn't," Isaiah repeated, smaller. Malik faced Trent. "The voucher is confirmed. Why deny it?" Trent's eyes stayed on Malik like a slow scan. "Sir, I don't know what you think this is, but this isn't a commercial flight. This is a private cabin. Different standards." "Different dignity?" Malik asked. "Different order," Trent said. Isaiah swayed slightly. His grandmother reached for him. Valeria stepped in front of her, still smiling. "He hasn't eaten since yesterday," the grandmother said, voice trembling. "We were delayed. They told us—" Valeria cut her off. "Ma'am, please. We're not doing a sob story in here." A few passengers snickered. The phone zoomed in. Malik's voice sharpened, not loud. precise. Show me the meal count. Trent's smile thinned. I don't owe you internal records. You owe honesty, Malik replied. You're turning a child into a problem because he asked. Valeria stepped closer to Malik. Sir, your behavior is escalating. You're interfering with crew operations. Continue, and you'll be marked non-compliant. Malik looked around at the watching faces. Notice how quickly a meal becomes a threat. That's the trick. Trent's jaw tightened. Sit down. Now. Isaiah suddenly bent forward, one hand on his stomach. His grandmother gasped. Baby? Malik moved toward him. Valeria snapped, Do not touch him. Malik stopped, then said firmly, He needs help. Trent waved it off. He's fine. He's playing it up. Isaiah whispered, I feel dizzy. His lips looked dry, his knees unsteady. Malik remembered his mother slipping him crackers behind a counter, whispering, Never let hunger become shame, in that terminal once. The cabin shifted. Even the Snickers died. Malik stared at Trent. Get him juice, anything, now. Valeria's eyes flashed. We are not rewarding theatrics. Malik's calm became steel. You're not rewarding, you're refusing, and you're enjoying it. Valeria pivoted toward the cabin as if testifying. For everyone's safety, we may need to involve security upon landing. Some passengers are refusing crew instruction. There it was again. Safety as a shield, policy as a weapon. Malik pulled out his phone. No drama, just a tap. Recording. Valeria pointed. Of course. Record bait, edit, cry victim. I've seen your type. Malik didn't blink. Good. Then you'll want the full truth on camera. Trent stepped closer. Turn it off. No, Malik said quietly. The air tightened. That one word carried weight. Trent lowered his voice into threat. If you don't comply, we can restrain you. Malik stayed still. Try it, and make sure every camera catches it. Valeria's smile returned, confident and cruel. You really think this ends well for you? Malik glanced at Isaiah, then back at her. It ends well for him. That's all that matters. Isaiah's grandmother wiped silent tears like she was ashamed of them. Malik leaned toward her and spoke softly. I'm here. I won't let them do this. Valeria turned to Trent in a stage whisper meant to be heard. He wants attention. We'll give him consequences. Trent reached toward the cockpit interphone. Captain, we have a disruptive passenger in the forward cabin. Malik listened as the official record was poisoned. He didn't argue. He collected. His phone vibrated. An internal alert, the first crack in a locked system. Malik looked at Valeria and said, almost gently, You should have served the meal. Valeria's eyes narrowed. And you should have stayed invisible. The jet flew on, smooth and quiet, while the cabin filled with a different turbulence. Truth gaining speed. If you've ever watched someone twist the rules to shame you, if you've ever seen policy used like a weapon, then stay with dignity voices. Like, subscribe and keep watching, because what Malik does next will make every bully in a uniform regret the day they open their mouth. Malik doesn't raise his voice. He starts pulling the exact records Valeria and Trent never expected a man in a hoodie to know how to access. And the first crack in their lie appears before the jet even begins its descent. The jet cruised as if nothing had happened. Steady altitude, velvet quiet engines, soft cabin lighting. But the first-class cabin had changed. Conversations died mid-sentence. People weren't watching Isaiah anymore. They were watching Malik. Valeria planted herself near the forward bulkhead, arms folded, smile fixed. Trent hovered at the galley door with the posture of a guard. The lock light glowed steady, sealed, protected, untouchable. Isaiah sat rigid, voucher flattened across his knees like evidence. His grandmother kept a hand on his shoulder, whispering comfort she didn't fully believe. Malik stood in the aisle with the calm of a man who refused to be baited into the disruptive passenger label. He wasn't here to win an argument. He was here to expose a system. Malik slipped his phone into his palm and opened a secure app without theatrics. A small icon pulsed. Audit mode. Passphrase. One steady thumb. He'd built tools like this because if you leave integrity to good intentions, it gets buried under uniforms and smiles. Valeria noticed the screen glow and sharpened her voice. "Sir, return to your seat. You're escalating." "I'm documenting," Malik said. Trent stepped closer. "You don't have clearance." "Then it won't open," Malik replied. A quiet chime answered. The screen filled with tiles. Flight catering summary. Manifest addendum. Galley seal status. Service exceptions. Incident draft. The cabin inhaled. Valeria's smile twitched. Trent blinked, then tried to hide it. Malik lifted his eyes. Calm, not triumphant. There's a difference between being loud and being right. He opened galley seal status first. Bright text stared back. Broken, 12 minutes before boarding. Malik angled the phone toward Valeria. "You told the cabin the galley was sealed. You said Isaiah was trying to breach it, but the seal broke before we left the ground." Valeria's tone snapped. "That's technical. You're misreading it." "Then explain it," Malik said. She didn't. Her eyes flicked, searching for a script that could turn broken into harmless. A passenger leaned forward. Another lowered a drink. The phone that had filmed Isaiah's shame shifted toward Valeria and Trent. Trent tried intimidation. "Accessing internal systems is a violation. Turn it off." "It's a record," Malik said. "You're not authorized," Trent insisted. "You're not honest," Malik answered. Malik opened flight catering summary and stopped on the numbers. Meal count loaded. 14 meal count available. 11 service exceptions logged, 0. He held it steady. 3 meals disappeared, no exceptions, no spoilage, no documentation. Valeria forced a laugh. "Meals get misplaced." "In an aircraft where every spoon is counted?" Malik asked. "That doesn't happen. That's a choice." Isaiah stared at the screen, blinking fast. His grandmother whispered, "Oh my God." Malik glanced at Isaiah. "Your voucher wasn't wrong." Isaiah's voice cracked. "So, they were lying?" "Yes," Malik said simply. Valeria snapped, "You're creating a scene." "You created it when you decided a child should be punished for asking," Malik replied. He opened the manifest addendum. Isaiah's name appeared with a service note. Meal confirmed. Special consideration. "You heard him explain he gets shaky without food," Malik said. "You heard his grandmother describe delays, and you still turned hunger into entertainment." Valeria's face tightened. "You're twisting this." "I'm untwisting it," Malik said. Trent's eyes darted to the aisle. "Captain needs to know you're interfering." "Captain needs to know the truth," Malik replied. Valeria lifted her chin. "This is a private operation, not your courtroom." Malik nodded once. "Good. Courtrooms come later." Trent's jaw flexed. "Are you threatening us?" "I'm describing consequences," Malik said. "When you weaponize policy language to humiliate a child, that becomes legal accountability when it's documented." Across the aisle, the suited man who'd told Malik to sit down earlier stared at his hands. A woman lowered her phone, embarrassed. Another passenger whispered, "That's seal code. That's internal." The cabin wasn't cheering yet, but it was choosing sides. Valeria recovered with arrogance. "You can throw legal buzzwords around. You're still just a passenger." "Exactly," Malik said. "A passenger watching you deny what was confirmed and then poison the record by calling it disruption. That isn't policy. That's deception." Malik tapped vendor compliance. A directive appeared. Sanitize language. Minimize unverified requests. Protect premium experience. Reduce waste exposure. Prioritize VIP optics. Malik's jaw tightened. "Here's the real disease." "This is how harm gets outsourced," Malik said. "Nobody writes, 'Deny a kid food.' They write, 'Optimize the experience.' Nobody writes, 'Humiliate the vulnerable.' They write, 'Protect the cabin.' and you interpret it the cruelest way because the system rewards you. Trent snapped, "That's not what it means." "That's what it becomes," Malik replied. "When leadership creates incentives for withholding, when managers look away, when harm is treated as collateral, you don't have a one-off. You have corporate negligence." Isaiah's grandmother frowned, her voice shaking but clear. "We didn't do anything to deserve this." Valeria opened her mouth to cut her down, but Malik turned to the grandmother first. "You're right," he said gently. "You didn't." Then he faced Valeria again. "Now here's what's going to happen. You will provide Isaiah food immediately. You will log the service exception properly. You will preserve every record, catering, seal status, crew notes, incident drafts, and you will not speak to this child like he's a burden again." Trent laughed, short and disbelieving. "And if we don't?" Malik held his gaze. "Then you'll explain to the board why a sealed galley was opened before boarding, why confirmed meals vanished, and why you tried to rewrite hunger as disruption." Valeria swallowed. "You can't?" Malik's phone vibrated. Another alert. He didn't look down right away. He looked at Valeria and said, almost sadly, "You built your confidence on the assumption that nobody important would ever sit where I'm sitting." Then he glanced at the alert. "Red line audit confirmed. Executive access verified." Valeria's face drained. Trent went still. The cabin went quiet. Malik slipped the phone back into his palm. "Now," he said, "we do this correctly. The Lord loves righteousness and justice. The earth is full of his unfailing love." Psalm 33:5. If you've ever watched someone hide cruelty behind rules, if you've ever been shamed for asking for what was promised, stay with Dignity Voices. Like and subscribe, because what happens next isn't just a confrontation. It's the beginning of a collapse they can't stop. Valeria and Trent don't just realize Malik is recording. They realize the audit is live. The truth is time-stamped, and they make one desperate move to protect themselves that puts Isaiah's safety and Malik's freedom on the line. The moment Malik's screen flashed executive, "Access verified." Valeria didn't explode. She went quiet. Her smile stayed, but it stopped pretending to be warm. Her eyes cut to Trent. "Fix this." Around them, the first-class cabin hung in a brittle silence, passengers aware they were witnessing more than a disagreement. Isaiah sat stiff, voucher flattened on his knees. His grandmother rubbed his shoulder in small circles, whispering prayers that sounded like apologies. Malik remained in the aisle with his palms loose and open, careful not to give anyone a single frame they could label aggressive. Valeria's voice returned soft and syruped. "Sir, for the comfort of the cabin, I'm asking you to step back to your seat while we handle the child's request privately." "Privately is where harm hides," Malik answered. Her smile tightened. "You're making everyone uncomfortable." "Truth is uncomfortable," Malik said. Trent shifted nearer. "You need to sit down, now." Malik didn't raise his voice. "Your threats don't become policy just because you repeat them." Valeria turned slightly toward the cabin, projecting like an announcement. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. We're addressing an onboard compliance issue. Please remain seated." Compliance issue. She wrapped the lie in official language, turning Malik into a risk and herself into a protector. Malik glanced at Isaiah. "Stay with your grandmother," he said gently. "You don't have to answer anyone. I'll handle this." Isaiah nodded, eyes wide. Valeria stepped closer to Malik and lowered her voice. "Listen, you don't know what you're doing. This is a premium cabin on a private operation. You can't just access internal systems and start making demands." "I didn't access anything I'm not allowed to," Malik replied. Valeria's eyes flashed. "Allowed by who?" Malik let the question hang. He wasn't here to flex. He was here to build a record so clean the truth could stand later without blinking. Valeria's gaze flicked to Trent again. Trent understood. He reached for the cockpit interphone. Malik watched him. He recognized the play. Poison the narrative at the highest level, make it official, then let procedure do the rest. Trent spoke into the interphone in a calm, responsible voice. "Captain, we have a passenger refusing crew instruction, recording staff, and accessing restricted operational data. Recommend security procedure and law enforcement on arrival." The words law enforcement changed the temperature. A few passengers shifted, suddenly choosing order over fairness. Valeria leaned in, voice low. "If the captain labels you non-compliant, your footage won't matter. You'll be another headline, disruptive passenger removed." Malik met her gaze. "And you'll still be someone who denied a child food and lied about it." "Careful," Valeria breathed. Malik answered softly, "You're not afraid of what I'm doing. You're afraid of what I can prove." Trent returned with a thin smile. "The captain wants you seated immediately." "Did he ask for the records?" Malik asked. Trent ignored him. "Sit down." Valeria lifted 2 fingers in a small gesture. 2 private security contractors appeared. Dark suits, earpieces, quiet menace. One contractor stepped into Malik's space. "Sir, comply with crew instruction and return to your seat." "On what grounds?" Malik asked evenly. "Refusal to follow crew direction." "Crew direction can't override truth," Malik said. "You can't restrain someone for requesting documentation or protecting a child." The contractor's expression didn't change. "We don't debate. We escort." Isaiah's grandmother sucked in a terrified breath. Isaiah's eyes locked on the security men, fear flooding back in. Valeria turned toward Isaiah's row, bright and performative. "See? This is what happens when people insist on making scenes. It becomes disruptive. It becomes unsafe." "I didn't want this," Isaiah whispered. Malik turned his head just enough to reassure him. "You didn't cause this," he said. "You revealed it." Valeria's eyes snapped to Trent. "Get the phone." Trent stepped in quickly, reaching toward Malik's hand. "Turn over your device." Malik didn't move. "Do not touch my property." Valeria raised her voice for the cabin. "Sir, you are now interfering with safety procedures." Malik spoke clearly. "Everyone, listen. They are trying to confiscate evidence." A woman near the aisle blurted, "Why would they need his phone if they did nothing wrong?" Valeria snapped, "Ma'am, stay out of crew operations." The contractor reached again. Malik shifted his hand just out of range. Still calm, shoulders relaxed. No swinging, no shoving, no chance to rewrite the footage. Valeria's smile returned, thin as wire. "You see? Non-compliant." Malik tapped his screen once. The phone vibrated. A small icon appeared. Secure sync, time-stamped, uploaded. Valeria's eyes widened. "What did you just do?" "Made sure you can't bury this," Malik said. Trent lunged, faster now. The contractor moved with him, hands closing in. Malik stepped back, controlled, palms open, refusing to become the villain in their story. Valeria raised her voice, building the spectacle she needed. "Refusing instruction, recording staff. This is exactly why we have procedures." Malik's voice cut through, steady. "I'm standing still." Then Isaiah made a small sound, half gasp, half whimper. His grandmother reached for him. "Baby?" Isaiah's face had drained of color. Sweat shone at his hairline. His hands gripped the armrests like he was trying to anchor himself. Valeria barely glanced his way. "He's fine." "He's not fine," Malik said, and the firmness in his voice carried authority without declaring it. "He needs fluids now," Trent scoffed. "We're not rewarding a stunt." Malik's gaze pinned him. "If that child collapses, you won't hide behind procedure. That becomes medical negligence and criminal exposure." The contractor hesitated a fraction. He wasn't paid enough to ignore liability. Valeria snapped toward the galley. "Mia, water." A flight attendant appeared with a bottle. Isaiah drank slowly, shaking, as the cabin watched a child fight to stay upright while adults argued over power. Malik stayed close without touching, voice low. "Small sips. Breathe." Valeria turned back to Malik, anger boiling under her composure. "You got your moment. Sit down." "This isn't a moment," Malik replied. "It's a record." A chime sounded, not from Malik's phone, but from the crew tablets. Then another. Then another. Trent glanced down, and the color drained from his face. Valeria's throat tightened. "What is that?" Malik didn't smile. "That's the audit going live." The cabin held its breath, and then the captain's voice cracked over the intercom, unsettled. "Crew, confirm! Why is my screen showing a broken galley seal and missing catering inventory?" Valeria went rigid. Trent's hands clenched around his tablet. Isaiah looked up, eyes wide. Malik, still in his hoodie, still standing in the aisle, spoke one quiet sentence that landed like a final nail. "Because the plane is done protecting your lie." "Crew!" Captain Rourke's voice cut through the intercom, uneasy. "Confirm why my display shows a broken galley seal and missing catering inventory." Silence sharpened in the first-class cabin. Valeria Stone, 45, light skin, sleek bun, senior purser, held her smile like armor. Trent Morrow, 39, light skin, catering supervisor, stared at his tablet. Malik Pierce, 38, deep brown skin, athletic build, undercover black CEO in a hoodie, stayed in the aisle, palms open, refusing to become the threat they'd invented. Valeria pressed her headset mic. "Captain, we're managing a passenger compliance issue. A gentleman is recording staff and interfering with operations." "Valeria," the captain cut in. "I didn't ask about a passenger. I asked about the seal and inventory." A low murmur moved through the cabin. Malik spoke calmly, loud enough for witnesses. "They claimed Isaiah was trying to breach a sealed galley. The system shows the seal broke before boarding. They claimed meals were unavailable. The system shows meals were loaded and then unaccounted for." Valeria snapped, "Stop narrating. This is confidential." "Truth doesn't become confidential because it embarrasses you," Malik said. Trent leaned in, voice hard. "Captain, this passenger is accessing restricted data. We should secure him." "Trent," the captain replied, "is the galley seal broken or not?" Trent hesitated. "It may have been temporarily disengaged during pre-flight." "Documented?" the captain asked. Valeria jumped in, syrup sweet. "Standard adjustments, Captain." "Standard adjustments are logged," the captain said. "My display shows no log." Malik turned to Isaiah's row. Isaiah, 10, brown skin, small frame, sat with his voucher flattened on his knees, grandmother gripping his shoulder. Malik softened. "Isaiah, you were right." Isaiah's eyes shone. "Captain," Valeria said quickly, "the child is fine. We can address service after landing." "Is he the one with the confirmed meal voucher?" the captain asked. Valeria's throat tightened. "Yes." "And did you deny it?" the captain said. Valeria lifted her chin. "This aircraft isn't a commercial route. That voucher may not apply." The captain's voice came back colder. "According to my display, it applies." Malik didn't celebrate. He simply added, "Captain, please log. Confirmed. Voucher presented. Crew denied. Crew announced a compliance issue to the cabin." "Noted," the captain said. "Mia, open the forward galley and perform a visual count." Mia hesitated, eyes flicking to Valeria's face. Valeria whispered, "Don't." Mia moved anyway. She keyed the code. The lock clicked. The galley door swung open. Warm air drifted out. Fresh meals neatly stacked. Not shortage. Proof. Valeria snapped, "Close that door." "Leave it open," the captain ordered. "Count." Mia began, voice shaking. 1, 2, 3. Trent stepped in, trying to block the view. "Captain, we'll reconcile after landing is where stories get rewritten," Malik said quietly. "Count now." Mia's counting reached 14. She stopped, eyes wide. 14 meals present. A few passengers gasped. Someone muttered, "So they lied." Trent's eyes flicked to Valeria, and she gave a nod. Their signal for plausible. Deniability. Trent swiped his tablet fast, trying to open the service exception screen as if he could invent a reason after the fact. But the moment he tapped Edit, the tablet buzzed and flashed. Audit lock. Changes disabled. Trent's jaw tightened. He tried again. Same alert. Then another chime sounded from Valeria's device, and her smile slipped. The system wasn't just showing data. It was preserving it. Valeria straightened, voice rising into theater. Captain, this is what I mean. That passenger is manipulating systems and provoking staff. He's trying to force a narrative. Malik's reply stayed quiet. No, your narrative is collapsing because it was built on a lie. A passenger near the window leaned out. If the meals are right there, why tell the kid there's none? Valeria snapped. Sir, remain seated. He didn't shrink. I am seated. I'm also listening. The cabin shifted. Less fear, more clarity. Valeria felt it. Two more. Phones lifted. Mia swallowed hard, counting again under her breath. Over the intercom, the captain asked, Who just attempted to modify the service log? No one answered right now. Valeria's voice turned brittle. Meals can be held for VIP service. That is policy. Then document it, Malik replied. You didn't. You documented a child as a disruption. Trent tried again. Captain, this man is agitating the cabin. The cabin is agitated because my display shows discrepancies, the captain said. Valeria, stop framing this as passenger behavior. Valeria's contempt finally slipped. She looked at Isaiah. He should be grateful he's even here. Isaiah shrank. His grandmother's lips trembled. Malik's calm grew heavier. Gratitude is not a leash, he said. Promises are not favors. Valeria scoffed. Spare us the sermon. Malik lifted his phone and angled the evidence toward the nearest eyes. Seal broken pre-boarding. Inventory loaded. No exception logged. Voucher confirmed. Captain, this chain shows the lie was prepared before we boarded. The intercom clicked, and the captain's tone hardened into command. Valeria Stone, Trent Morrow. Preserve all records. Cease passenger interaction except medical necessity. Mia, deliver the confirmed meal to the child immediately. Valeria started. Captain, with respect, that wasn't a discussion, the captain said. Mia carried a tray to Isaiah. Malik crouched to Isaiah's level. Take it, he said softly. You're receiving what was promised. Isaiah's hands shook as he took the tray. One bite, then another. Tears slid down his cheeks, relief and release. Malik stood and faced Valeria and Trent. This isn't only about one meal. It's about who you decide deserves comfort and who you decide deserves shame. Then hiding behind policy language. Trent snapped, You don't know the pressures. Then document the pressures, Malik said. Don't create victims. Valeria's smile returned, thin and desperate. Who are you? Malik paused, letting the silence do the work. My name is Malik Pierce, Chief Executive Officer, Ether Aviation Group. Shock rolled through the cabin. Phones lifted. Breath caught. Valeria's color drained. Trent's tablet slipped and thudded against his thigh. I boarded Undercover, Malik said, because complaints said our policies were being used to humiliate certain passengers. Today, you confirmed it. Valeria's voice turned sharp. This is entrapment. This is accountability, Malik replied. He looked around the cabin. You witnessed this. Keep your footage. Don't edit it. Don't exaggerate it. Truth is enough. Captain Rourke returned. Final. Mr. Pierce, we will coordinate on landing. Valeria and Trent, remain forward. Any deviation will be documented as insubordination. Valeria stared at Malik, with hate and fear braided together. Malik glanced at Isaiah, then back at her. You thought the plane would protect your lie, he said quietly. But the record protects him. For nothing is hidden that will not be made manifest, nor is anything secret that will not be known and come to light. Luke 8:17. If you've ever been told to be grateful for mistreatment, Stay with Dignity Voices. Like and subscribe, because the reveal is only the beginning, and the consequences on the ground will hit even harder. Malik turns this evidence into immediate action on the tarmac. Suspensions, contract freezes, and protection for Isaiah, while Valeria and Trent attempt one last rewrite that could explode in public. The jet touched down with a soft, expensive sigh, tires kissing runway, spoilers lifting, the cabin rocking once as if the aircraft itself was relieved to stop carrying a lie. Amber taxiway lights streaked past like verdicts. Valeria stayed forward, posture rigid, smile forced. Trent hovered beside her, jaw tight, eyes darting toward the passengers who now watched him like a man caught mid-act. Malik didn't rush. He waited until the seatbelt chime clicked off and the cabin began its slow shuffle. Isaiah sat quietly with his empty tray, crumbs on the napkin like proof he'd finally been allowed to be a child. His grandmother whispered thanks, but Malik shook his head. "You don't owe anyone gratitude for basic decency," he told her. At the forward door, Captain Rourke appeared, face set. He leaned toward Malik, voice low. "Airport security is staged outside. Corporate ops has been notified." "Good," Malik said. "No one leaves before we preserve everything." Valeria tried to reclaim control. "Captain, this is exaggerated. The passenger created a disturbance." "Valeria," Rourke cut in, "my display shows a broken seal and missing inventory. Remain forward." Outside, the stairs rolled into place. A security supervisor and 2 airport officers stepped aboard. Malik showed his phone, executive credentials, audit stamp, time-coded logs. The supervisor's demeanor shifted instantly. "How would you like to proceed?" the supervisor asked. "Separate Valeria and Trent," Malik said. "Collect their devices, preserve tablets, interphone logs, galley seal history, and catering chain of custody. Then escort Isaiah and his grandmother to a private lounge with medical support." Valeria's chin lifted. "This is retaliation." "This is procedure," Malik replied. "The kind you only respect when it protects you." Trent tried to soften it. "Sir, we can fix this quietly. No need to ruin careers over a child begging for what was confirmed," Malik said, still calm. "Careers ruin themselves when cruelty becomes routine." The officers stepped forward. As Valeria was guided toward the door, she twisted back to the cabin, voice rising to poison the story. "He set us up. He boarded with an agenda. This is entrapment. This is a stunt for optics," a few passengers murmured. Malik stepped into the aisle where everyone could see him. "If I wanted optics, I would have announced myself before takeoff. I stayed quiet so the truth could speak without my title. Keep your footage. Back it up. Don't edit out context. Truth doesn't need drama. It needs daylight." Valeria glared like daylight offended her. Malik turned to Isaiah. "Isaiah, you're safe. No one is taking your seat. No one is labeling you a problem." Isaiah swallowed. "Am I in trouble?" "No," Malik said. "You were brave." His grandmother clutched her purse. "We don't want to cause issues. We just want to go home." "You will," Malik promised, "and you won't pay for someone else's pride." He nodded to the supervisor. Isaiah and his grandmother were escorted first. A passenger who'd laughed earlier shifted awkwardly as Isaiah passed. "Hey, sorry, kid," he muttered. Isaiah nodded once, cautious. Malik watched that small apology like a seed of correction beginning to break the soil. On the tarmac, the private terminal air was sharp with jet fuel and consequences. In a quiet lounge, a medic checked Isaiah's vitals and offered juice. Malik stayed nearby but gave them space. Then Malik walked into a glass-walled room where corporate operations had arrived with legal counsel on speakerphone. He didn't sit. "Freeze the catering vendor contract," Malik said. "Immediately." One executive hesitated. "That vendor handles multiple routes." "Then we audit multiple routes," Malik replied. "Full review, seal protocols, inventory reconciliation, service denials, and bias-related complaints. I want a corrective plan with deadlines. Legal counsel's voice crackled. We should consider exposure. We should consider harm, Malik said. Exposure is the bill. Harm is the debt. He continued, crisp and controlled. Create a restitution package for Isaiah and any other approved passengers denied confirmed services. Draft a dignity service protocol. Real-time catering verification, mandatory documentation for every denial, and training tied to performance reviews. No training, no promotion. Across the glass, Valeria sat with an officer nearby, posture rigid. Trent paced like a trapped animal. Malik saw Trent lean toward Valeria, whispering. Two people trying to coordinate a new story. Malik opened the door and stepped out. Don't, he said quietly. They froze. The record is locked, Malik continued. Tablets are audit sealed. The captain's interphone log is preserved. Passenger videos are already in the cloud. If you coordinate a false statement, you add obstruction. Valeria's voice shook with anger. You're enjoying this. Malik shook his head once. I'm grieving that it was necessary. You humiliated a child because you believed the system would cover you. Today, the system changes. He returned to the room and ended the meeting with one final instruction. No spin, no reputation games. We tell the truth, we fix the pipeline, and we make it impossible to repeat. Before Malik left the lounge, he asked the medic to note Isaiah's symptoms in writing and timestamp it. Not for drama, Malik said, for protection. He had the supervisor take names from willing passengers and request they email their videos to a secure address, voluntary, unedited, original files. One woman whispered, I thought I was watching service. I was watching power. Malik nodded. That's why we document. In the hallway, a PR director rushed in, breathless, already talking about containment. Malik stopped him with a look. No containment, he said. Correction. The PR director swallowed and went quiet. Later, Isaiah sipped juice and looked up at Malik. So, the plane was yours? Malik crouched to his level. The plane belongs to the company. The responsibility belongs to me. Isaiah nodded slowly, learning a new shape of power, one that protected instead of crushed. He squeezed Isaiah's shoulder lightly, then stood, letting the boy eat in peace while adults faced consequences. And Isaiah, Malik added, placing a small card in his hand, you never have to beg for what you were promised. Not on my watch. The next morning, the story didn't leak the way scandals usually did. It arrived, clean, time-stamped, undeniable. Not a rumor, not a he said, she said. A chain. Broken galley seal before boarding, inventory intact, voucher confirmed, denial performed in public. Then a false compliance issue broadcast to the cabin. Malik watched it all from a glass conference room, where the skyline looked like polished steel, and every reflection reminded him, power is only holy when it protects. The board assembled by video. First, faces framed by expensive offices and carefully neutral expressions. Some looked angry, some alarmed, a few already calculating what the news would cost. Malik let them speak for exactly 3 minutes. Then he shared his screen. Numbers, logs, audio, still frames, the kind of proof that didn't need adjectives. When the clip reached the moment Valeria turned Isaiah's hunger into a lesson, one board member flinched. Another looked away. A third cleared his throat and tried to interrupt with, "We should be mindful of optics." Malik cut him off calmly. Optics are what you worry about when you're trying to hide harm. We're not hiding it. We're fixing it. A senior director asked the question everyone hoped was unaskable. Why were the meals there if the child was denied? Malik didn't raise his voice. Because withholding became a habit. Because humiliation became a tool. Because someone believed premium experience meant some people don't count. He paused long enough for the words to settle. That is not a service failure. That is a culture failure. Legal counsel joined the call with a short list. exposure, civil liability, regulatory risk, employment actions. Malik listened, then slid the conversation to where it belonged. "Start with the child," he said, then address the adults. He laid out the steps as if he'd been building them for years, because he had. First, Valeria and Trent were placed on immediate suspension pending investigation, their access revoked, their devices preserved under chain of custody. No private resignation, no quiet transfer, no mutual separation language that washed the stain off. Second, the catering vendor contract was frozen and sent to independent review. "If they can't account for meals on a private jet," Malik said, "what are they doing on our commercial routes?" Third, the airline's internal integrity office would be restructured, not renamed, not repainted, rebuilt, with independent oversight, quarterly audits, and a whistleblower hotline that went outside corporate leadership. "Fear," Malik said, "is a pipeline for abuse." One board member tried to soften it. "Malik, this is a lot of change over one incident." Malik's eyes stayed steady. "It's not one incident. It's one incident that got caught." The room went quiet. Then Malik pushed forward the document titled Dignity Service Protocol. Not a slogan, not a poster, but operational law, real-time catering verification, mandatory documentation for every denial, locked service logs that can't be edited after the fact, and a service ethics score tied directly to promotions and leadership bonuses. "And every employee," Malik added, "will complete training that doesn't end with a quiz. It ends with accountability. If you break it, you're done." A director asked, "What about passenger rights?" Malik nodded. "We're publishing a clear passenger rights statement, plain language, visible at booking, at check-in, and on board, and we're enforcing it with a digital receipt. If a meal is confirmed, the system will show it. If it's denied, a reason must be logged, signed, and reviewed. No more policy as a weapon." He watched their faces change. Some of them weren't angry anymore. They were learning what leadership demanded, the discomfort of truth. By midday, Malik sat with Captain Rourke and the head of operations in a smaller room. Rourke looked tired, but firm. "You understand?" Rourke said. "This is going to make waves." "It should," Malik replied. "A calm ocean doesn't mean the water is safe. It can mean the predators are comfortable." They drafted the internal memo first. Malik refused vague language. No unfortunate misunderstanding. No service disruption. No regret if offense was taken. He dictated it like a confession. That had to stay clean. A child with a confirmed meal voucher was denied service and humiliated. Crew members misrepresented facts to the cabin and to the cockpit. The company failed to prevent it. The company will correct it. Then came the hardest decision, a public statement. PR proposed a softer approach. Malik rejected it. "If the public can't understand what we did wrong," he said, "we're still hiding." So they did it plainly. They named the failure without naming Isaiah. They outlined corrective actions with dates. They offered restitution to anyone impacted on similar flights, past and present. They announced an independent audit. When Malik signed the statement, he didn't feel relief. He felt weight, because he knew what came next, the human part. He met Isaiah and his grandmother in a quiet lounge at the terminal that afternoon. No press, no cameras, just a table, a warm meal, and the kind of stillness money can't buy. Isaiah looked smaller off the aircraft, the adrenaline gone. Malik saw how a 10-year-old carried embarrassment like a backpack he didn't choose. "I'm sorry that happened," Malik said. Isaiah blinked. "Are they mad at me?" Malik's throat tightened, but he kept his voice steady. "No, they were wrong. And you helped us find it." His grandmother's eyes filled. "We didn't want trouble," she whispered. "I know," Malik said gently. "But trouble already existed. You didn't create it. You exposed it." He slid a folder across the table. Inside, travel accommodations, a restitution package, and a letter, written in plain language, affirming Isaiah's dignity and safety with a direct contact line for support. Not a legal shield, a promise. Then Malik looked at Isaiah and said the sentence he wished someone had said to him as a boy watching his mother stretch food behind a counter. You don't have to shrink to deserve care. Isaiah swallowed, then nodded, slowly, like he was practicing believing it. Before they left, Malik stood by the window and watched planes move like bright, distant fish in the sky. He breathed out and whispered a line of scripture that felt less like poetry and more like instruction. He has told you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. Micah 6:8. Then he turned back toward the boardroom, toward policy, toward consequences, toward the hard work that outlives headlines. Because dignity wasn't a moment. It was a system. And now, that system finally knew who it served. 2 weeks later, the airport looked the same. Glass walls, rolling suitcases, the low hum of announcements. But Ether Aviation felt different. Not softer, cleaner. Like a room after a storm that refuses to pretend nothing happened. Malik Pierce didn't return in a hoodie. He arrived in a dark suit, quiet and precise, and walked past cameras without, feeding them. Near the check-in screens, new signage glowed in plain language. Passenger rights, clear, confirmed, enforced. Beneath it, airline policy must protect people, not protect pride. At Gate 12, a modest stage stood beneath a white backdrop. Dignity Service Protocol, Launch Day. It wasn't a celebration. It was a public correction. The head of operations opened with the fixes, real-time catering verification, locked service logs that cannot be edited after the door closes, mandatory documentation for every denial, a hotline monitored outside the chain of command. Then he said the sentence that used to be forbidden. We failed a child. We failed our standard. A lawyer followed, outlining the settlement agreement. Restitution for Isaiah and his grandmother. Compensation for other approved passengers impacted on similar flights. Funding for an independent civil rights training partner. Malik insisted the language stay honest. Repair, not silence. Responsibility, not spin. Valeria and Trent were not invited. After the investigation confirmed the time-stamped logs and the false announcement, they were terminated. No quiet transfer, no mutual separation that scrubs the record. Malik wanted a message inside the company. Dignity violations are performance failures. The board also approved quarterly public audit summaries so the people who buy tickets can see correction in motion, not just promises on a podium, and employees can track the standard in real time. Next came the executive apology. A senior leader stepped to the microphone and named what happened without hiding behind vagueness. A confirmed meal denied, a child humiliated, a false compliance issue broadcast to the cabin, and an attempt to confiscate evidence. He listed consequences, terminations, vendor suspension, and external audit, then said, "We were wrong. We are correcting it." Malik watched faces in the crowd. He could feel the old instinct rising. Reputation management, the urge to smooth edges and turn pain into a marketing moment. He refused it. If they turned dignity into a slogan, the reform would rot. When Malik stepped up, he didn't start with numbers. He started with one line. A child should never have to beg for what was promised. He let it sit until the gate area went quiet. I boarded that flight undercover because I wanted the truth without my title interfering, he continued. What happened wasn't a service mistake. It was a dignity mistake, and it was enabled by systems that rewarded withholding and tolerated humiliation. He lifted a slim folder. These policies are not posters. They are commitments with deadlines. Passenger rights are not decorations. Airline policy is not a weapon. First-class cabin is not a license to treat people like they are less than human. Then he said the words he wanted recorded. This company will choose brand accountability over comfort every time. He stepped down before the cameras could turn him into a hero. He crossed the concourse to a quiet cafe near a window where planes moved like patient giants. Isaiah sat with his grandmother at a small table, eating slowly, shoulders no longer locked in fear. No press, no staged photo, just ordinary peace. Isaiah looked up and smiled, small but real. Malik sat across from him. "How's school?" he asked. Isaiah brightened. "I got an A in math." "That's earned," Malik said. "I'm proud of you." His grandmother's eyes shone. "We never wanted trouble." "I know," Malik replied softly, "but trouble was already there. You didn't create it. You exposed it." Isaiah pushed his plate forward as if offering proof. The meal wasn't fancy. What mattered was the way he ate now, without apology. "Will they do it to someone else?" Isaiah asked. Malik didn't lie. Systems don't change in one day. But now there's a protocol, a record, and people watching. And I'll keep watching too. Isaiah nodded. "Thank you." Malik shook his head. "Courage is asking even when you're scared. You did that." Before Malik stood, he placed a small card beside Isaiah's tray. On it was a verse, written like a compass. "The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit." Psalm 34:18. Isaiah read it quietly, then held it like it was something solid. Malik walked back toward the gate, where reporters still waited and executives still calculated. He didn't feel victory, he felt stewardship. Real justice is not a moment, it's maintenance. It's rebuilding systems until protection belongs to the vulnerable. Behind him, a child kept eating in peace. That was the final image Malik wanted the company to remember, because a brand is not what it claims. A brand is what it corrects. If this story spoke to you, if you've ever been shamed, dismissed, or treated like you didn't belong, stay with Dignity Voices. Like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs the reminder. Quiet power still wins, and dignity still matters. God's word keeps pressing us toward truth, not appearances. It calls us to defend the crushed, not manage impressions. Malik's strength wasn't volume, it was choosing what is right. When we pursue justice with humility, we become the kind of people who feed the child first and fix the system next.